Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Burke County Board of Commissioners pre-agenda meeting for Monday, December the 1st, 2025 at 3 p.m. Thank you for being here. Welcome, everybody. All commissioners are present, Madam Clerk, along with County Manager and Finance Officer. I would ask you to silence your mobile devices if you got noise makers with you today. And be sure to press the button on the right when you come to the podium so that the red light comes on. We get a good recording for our meeting today. Gentlemen, we do have one item we'd like to amend onto the agenda. It's been placed in front of you. It's a budget amendment that we need to add to the docket if that's agreeable. You can see it there. And any question about that? If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the amended item added for budget amendment number 7. We could add that to the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. All right. Item number 3, organization of the board. Gentlemen, this will occur at our regular meeting. This is on the agenda. We'll be electing our officers as we do annually, and then also that'll be the chair and vice chair. So please give that consideration. We'll act on those matters at our regular meeting. Without objection, this item will remain on the agenda. Any problems with either of those items? All right, seeing here none, Madam Clerk, these items will remain. Brings us to item number 4, presentations from the Register of Deeds Office, departmental update. This will be presented by Stephanie Norman. Stephanie, I don't see her with us today.
She'll be here at the regular meeting.
We'll plan to hear that at our regular meeting. Without objection, this item will remain on the agenda. Okay, item number 2 from our county manager, single source foster care support presentation. This is a placeholder, but Mr. Manager is going to give us some information on this afternoon as well.
Thank you, Board. This is Corey's here with me, so certainly can ask questions as we move through. And with your permission, I'll work through the slide deck to give the basic context of what we hope to further present on and get your direction on at your regular meeting. Not asking the board to take any action at this point, but just continue to make a point of emphasis to highlight foster care and children in the foster care system in Burke County each month. And this would be, I think, month 8 of doing that. We've, as you all know, had different speakers offering perspective from different components. Someone grew up in foster care, someone who works in foster care, somebody who had their home open to children in foster care. We've also presented from month to month different data points. And really, the December item is what I think is the next step in the evolution of creating strong systems that make very efficient use of limited foster care resources. We're calling it vertical integration, and I can move through this very quickly today and answer questions, and then I'll do a more in-depth discussion at your regular meeting. But again, the point of December is simply to introduce this idea of a single source foster care provider to the board, answer questions you may have, and if we're all supportive, then we would move forward with a competitive process and bring back some options. But at this point, it's just teeing up the conversation. So we talk obviously a lot about purpose and understanding what the motivation behind this investment into foster care is, and understanding that improving lives and nothing symbolizes or embodies that, I think, more so than investing in our children. So what we're talking about today is vertically integrating all the components of foster care, specifically marketing, recruitment, licensing, training, support on with a very intentional focus on growing the number of foster care homes in Burke County, but then also bringing together the assessment side and the clinical side. So anytime a child comes into foster care, there's federal, state laws that require clinical assessments, behavioral needs assessments to be done for that child to direct their path. There's also requirements in a case plan for the parents that may be parental counseling, maybe substance use related, and the courts would dictate how that goes. And the idea here is to create a single source of provider that can do both the recruitment, solicitation, support of foster parents and homes, but then also have the ability to bring those clinical services in, because what we see often, and I think the data dictates, is that often children come into our care, and whether it's a lack of placement opportunity or a lack of remedy for the parent, that's why they stay in our care so long, and it creates this kind of compounding wait list. So I would identify this as another step in the direction of creating awareness, obviously advocating for these children, and one step further in our plan of action. We've talked about this many times, but we have an imbalance of children that are experiencing foster care with an unproportionate low amount of available placement options and clinical resources. This is kind of the slide that first pointed out this unproportionate imbalance in Burke County about a year ago when we looked at the 3-year average of kind of foster children in care per capita. And as we've dove into that more, we've also noticed that our intake is significantly more. As you can see, when we compare Burke County to the state and federal average, our claims, further substantiated claims, and then the children actually taken into care are far exceeding the judicial boundaries, the state and the federal averages. And one of the things that we know is driving that is we also have outliers as it relates to substance use and overdose, opioid problems. So we're working on that in a parallel track, although it's the resources are kind of compartmentalized. Here's a heat map of overdoses in Burke County for the last 2 years, 22 to 24. And we've overlaid that with those green triangles that show foster care child welfare intake. And you can see, I think there's a pretty close correlation for where those children are coming into care at. This is just by school zone and type of substance, a little more information about removals. Once a child, we also know, we've talked about this a few times, once a child comes into care, largely because of parental resources and case plans from the judicial system, we also see that the number of days in care for a child experiencing foster care in Burke County is substantially longer than judicial region, state and federal. And so what the offset of that is total time to permanency lags. And you can see that here when you look at, as of last year, the number of children in care, roughly 185. But this is what jumps out to me, that across placement, different types of placement, the average length in care is 1,298 days. And that is obviously substantially longer than we'd like it to be. Here's just comparing Burke County to the state and to what would be considered an industry best practice for time to permanency. We've looked at this chart before, but I think just an additional data point to suggest that not only is intake higher than industry norms, that the outcome and time to permanency is also a little bit slower, which is what creates this stacking of number of children in care at any point in time. There are some positive trends. You can see that days to first permanency hearing starting to track down, as well as time to permanency placement. Also good news. At your August meeting, the Board of Commissioners approved some opioid settlement contracts that began to add some people to the team, add some organizations, add some professionals to the team. Spark does this in-home family-centered treatment, and that is working with parents in the home, and we think that will largely, hopefully in a predictive and a preventative way, keep families together and prevent children from coming into care. We've also done pastor-led groups. We've worked with One More, One Less. Our guardian ad litem team, for the first time in a long time, has began meeting with our foster care. In fact, they met this morning. So this morning at 8 o'clock, there was a countywide of all the providers who work in this industry. I think there was 12 of them that had a meeting this morning. Directly following that, Burke County DSS Foster Care Supervision met with the guardian ad litem, and directly following that, the guardian ad litem met with our office to talk about this initiative. So there's a lot of good people working on this this methodology, and I would say that that's an energy that really hasn't been there in the past, and that's not just coming certainly from my perspective, but from the folks who practice in this field regularly. So this RFQ idea is just another step in that direction. Currently, we have on the recruitment, marketing, licensing, training, and support, Burke County has one FTE, one full-time employee who does all of that work. And we do have some private providers, but there's some unnecessary competitiveness between public and private there. And on the clinical side, we have a variety of vendors that do these services, oftentimes out of the county, which is prohibitive for parents who need them, who may have transportation challenges. And so the idea is to bring all of that, instead of fragmenting in multiple ways, to bring all of that under this single source provider so that we're a little bit more material component to someone's book of business. Hopefully that gives us a higher level of dedicated attention. At the end of the day, we believe the outcome will be a higher number of licensed foster parents in Burke County. So our foster care social workers will not have to carry children as far for placement. We also think that there'll be expedited and expanded quality assessments and services. And all of that we think will reduce time to permanency and ultimately lower the number of children in care. So just a little bit of data about what our kids are. We know that they're in one of three types of placement. When you look at our children by location, at the day we did this map, there were 3 that were outside the county. This is a couple of weeks old now, but you can see not all necessarily directly here in Burke County either. There's certainly some travel time. These are the folks that are licensed through the county. We do have some private agency placements. So these, I was with Ms. Kincaid, our regional guardian ad litem director this morning, and she pointed out that there's more Caldwell County foster placements in Burke County than there are Burke County foster placements. And largely that's because of these type of private licensing agencies that just do a better job of facilitating those relationships. And then something our group does do a really good job of here in Burke County is finding unlicensed kinship, which is keeping the child in the family just outside of the parental home. So again, currently we pay multiple agencies and providers for these services. That's required by federal and state law as when a child comes in to the child welfare system. Sometimes because there's not availability of service, and again, Corey can speak to this in much greater detail than me, but I've heard this since coming to Burke County that at times a judicial order dictates that a parent goes through some type of remedy process that simply they don't have access to do. Those services just aren't accessible. And so we believe by largely partnering with one agency that we'll have some economies of scale to start to remedy some of those purposes. And that's what we're talking about here. It's going through an RFQ process. The types of services, the scope of services, if you will, that would be posted in this RFQ that we would be looking for. Every child has to have the CCA. We talk about substance use, drug screening, this parental capacity evaluations. Keep going through. There's certainly an extensive list of what we would be asking this provider to make sure we had expedient connection and relationships with. So I think the goals are pretty straightforward. We want to have a pre-qualified list of providers and vendors that can rapidly respond to referrals. So that means at 3 a.m. when a child's taken into care, we're ready to begin the process. We want to increase the number of parents. We want to do that inside Burke County in a localized way. We want to be able to deliver some services on site, and ultimately we want to be able to do this in a budget neutral way. I don't think this is a cost saving initiative, but I don't think it'll cost us additional money. These providers that do it as a private component, they would fall under the LME MCO model, so they were able to bill Medicaid for services provided. Obviously, we don't do that. So they're able to have some revenue generation for clients that we're working with them on. And then obviously what we're paying the multiple vendors now would go uniformly to one. So they can kind of both revenue centers to make their business model work. This is just talking about where we are now as the public sector doing this licensing and recruitment. And as we talked this morning in our meeting, with the intake of child welfare and the safety inspections and all the things, lots of times for a county to be doing this work, if you know a child's in a safe, stable environment, whether they're in permanency or not is not the number one place of conversation. If they're stable in a safe environment, so much of your attention is required to be put on the safety and the intake side, that some of these other things just don't get worked as frequently as you otherwise would hope. So having a company that focuses just on this type of work, and their livelihood depends on it, they do it every day, the team believes that will yield better outcomes and more efficient outcomes for children that are unfortunately experiencing these conditions. So we think, again, I'll say this, I've got one more slide after this. We think this single source, vertically integrated system could streamline communication, not only for current foster families, but for future foster families. So there's a one-stop shop for any bit of information or resource they need. Consistent training and licensing, because we have one person, we do licensing as we can, training as we can, maps as we can, versus having structured, regular marketing and recruitment and training. We think it simplifies implementation, and it certainly centralizes and offers wraparound services that just don't exist now. And so when we come back in 2 weeks, we'll have a little bit more information, but ultimately what we'll be asking the board for direction on is, would you like us to move forward with drafting an RFQ? What questions do you have around this idea? And if we post it and solicit interested vendors, certainly we'll go through the process and ultimately later down the road bring back a proposed vendor if someone can handle this level of service. But most simply, it's an attempt to increase the number of parents, decrease the number of children in foster care, and provide a higher level of support for folks that are willing to open their homes. And we think we can do it in a budget neutral way that also lowers the total number of children that we have to care for. So certainly happy to answer any questions. Corey's here too. He can help if I can't answer it, but wanted to introduce this idea to you all and get direction in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions for Brian or Corey on this item? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on the agenda. Item number 5, we have no scheduled public hearings this month. That'll bring us to item number 6, the consent agenda. First item comes from the Board of Commissioners, consideration of 2026 rules of procedure. Gentlemen, you have those in your package. We made a few adjustments last year. Haven't heard any concerns, but if you do have concerns or wish to discuss any items on that, please let us know. Any comments on the rules of procedures? Seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 2, Board of Commissioners adoption of resolution establishing 2026 meeting schedule. Gentlemen, you've had a chance to look over those. Any problems with any of those dates?
Those problems will arise later.
Yep, they do. We'll deal with those as needed. All right, without objection, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 3, Board of Commissioners appointments. Gentlemen, I do have one I noticed that we had made an adjustment on. If I can get this to operate with me. Under the America 250, where is that? Yeah, first one on the list. That one should be Commissioner Stroud. You still good with that, Commissioner Stroud? For 2026, Madam Clerk, we made a change during the year. Any other changes or any concerns anybody has with the?
Mr. Chairman, the VEDIC team member of board. It's currently, okay, I see it, never mind. 2026 is Commissioner Berry, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Any other concerns on the appointments? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 4 comes, the America 250 Committee, resolution of support of America's 250th birthday. This will be presented by Ed Phillips, our chairman of the America 250 Committee. Mr. Ed?
Good afternoon, guys, and ladies and members of the public. We do have a resolution that will be presented at the regular meeting. Do you want me to read it? I don't know what the procedure is. I've never done this before, resolution, but.
No, sir, not necessarily. And this,
Don't answer so quick, Jeff.
this is on consent, so you won't have to present this again unless there's some question or desire to move it otherwise. Gentlemen, you've had a chance to look at this. Any question about the resolution concerning the celebration of America's 250th anniversary? All right, seeing here none, this one will remain on the consent agenda.
And I've also provided you guys a activity report for today. The county manager asked me to provide that to you guys and let you know what's going on with the America 250 Committee. So I included that in your packet if you have any questions. One thing I will mention for next year, we're looking for a site to plant a Liberty tree in Burke County. And so that's going to be a big part of what we do in the spring. So we'll talk more about that later, but thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Ed. All right. Item number 5 comes from the clerk, appointments or reappointments to the Tourism Development Authority. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen of the audience. The terms of appointment for the following members on the Tourism Development Authority ended December 31st. Deborah Perry, Collector of Occupancy Tax. Rob Winkler represents the City of Morganton. Marissa Angie represents Valdez. Dana Wisnett, Travel and Tourism at Large. Mike Watts, also Travel and Tourism at Large. The terms are for 2 years and they end December 31st, 2027. Everyone has applied to serve another term except for Rob Winkler, and the city would like Mackenzie McGinnis to be their appointment. I believe they're actually considering that today. So this is a request to remove Mr. Winkler's name and thank him for his service, and to reappoint Deborah Perry, Marissa Angie, Dana Wisnett, and Mike Watts for 2-year terms ending December 31, 2027, and to appoint Ms. Guinness also for the same period of time to represent Morganton.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Any questions on this item? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on consent agenda. Item number 7 comes from the county manager, budget amendment number 6. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Budget amendment number 6 is request to budget $136,000. It's comprised of 2 sources. The first is a $20,000 grant from the North Carolina Department of Military and Veteran Affairs, and it's a grant that does not require a match. It is part of local legislation in the 2023 Appropriations Act, Session Law 2023-134, and it started grants up to $20,000 for local veteran services offices that had less than 8 full-time employees, just largely to support veterans in the community. And so this $20,000 of that 136 is for that, and it's largely going to set up a donation closet for veterans here in the community, provide a meal, and a variety of other support activities. The other $116,600 is a request to budget a portion of special adoption funds. So we get dollars from the state each year based on prior year permanency performance. This year we received $348,000 in earmark. This is a request to budget only a portion of that, largely because we have in-house attorneys that potentially have conflicts with temporary placements as they're representing children in foster care in the courts that maybe they represented in other legal settings when they work for a private law firm, or maybe they have a relationship with the child or know something about the case, or represented a parent. They have some type of conflict that they can't work on that case, and so we have to annually we appropriate dollars so that we can hire outside counsel. That's about 100,000, 116. We also have $3,500 of that for travel to send our attorneys to a national adoption legal conference. $1,200 to provide, or $3,300 to provide MAP classes and supplies for those classes, and then some advertising and some storage funding as well. But total is 136, and 20 of it for veteran services, the other 116 from the special adoption funds, no local dollars associated with either of these requests. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Any questions on this item? All right, see here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda, and my apologies, I skipped over item number 6, clerk resolution to accept donation of desk cubicles from Western Piedmont Council of Governments. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request to adopt a resolution accepting some very nice, gently used cubicles from the Western Piedmont Council of Governments Workforce Development Board. And the resolution is in your packet, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions on this item? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Now, that takes us to item number 8 from County Manager, authorization to sell surplus property on Gov Deals. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just what I would consider a modernization or an automation of our surplus property. So there's a resolution that's in alignment with both 160A and 153A that talks about the disposition of surplus property. As you all know, we've in the last 6 months built an online listing portfolio of county surplus property, and since that point the volume has picked up substantially. Right now we have a very manual process where people have to fill out a paper form and email that to somebody, and it has to be updated, and this is not changing any of the what I would call public facing marketing website component, but it's allowing, once the property is declared surplus, to put that on GovDeals, so anybody can do an online competitive auction, and it largely prevents the county from having to pay the media advertising fees, which can be fairly substantial. The treasury deposit that would go to the trust account, the attorneys, is handled automated, and then the bidding and all the administrative components. No different for any other surplus asset that we would have in the county for a vehicle or a piece of equipment. This is largely handling real property in the exact same format we do those surplus assets. So procedurally, if this resolution was approved, you would be declaring surplus for those properties that were already listed on the website, but allowing staff to post them on GovDeals for the bidding process and the legal parameters to be followed. And then once, of course, each of those would have a reserve that's set, so that in order for the bid to be accepted or to be managed by GovDeals, it would have to be above that minimum requirement. And then following the 10 days and all the things, we would bring that back to you all for final approval. So that's a mouthful to say that we're taking our exact process that we have now and largely automating it. I think it will be more customer friendly for folks bidding, because they'll be able to see what their next required bid is. And it'll, I think, expedite that whole process.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager. Any questions on this item?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Manager, I think we had a number of folks who had submitted, so will this get implemented in time, and then that'll just feed back to the GovDeals process?
If the board gives us permission to operate in this way, we were going to call the handful of folks who've already bid and walk them to that site so that they could submit their bid there. It's a handful of properties, but very few bidders, to be honest with you. Like, the volume's been high, but it's probably 5 or 6 folks that we would need to call and just help them understand where they may go submit that exact same bid, but online. And that way it kind of self-automates. Does that make sense?
No, that's perfect, and I
Yes.
think that's a better idea really, because it's going to open up to a much wider audience of potential buyers.
And we found that folks don't know where to start bidding right now, and they don't know how much to bid, and the number of phone calls and all the stuff, it's making it a bit of a challenge.
Okay, very good. Other questions? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on consent agenda. Item number 9, County Manager, authorization to use opioid litigation settlement funds to expand the port team. This will be presented by Katie Samuel, our opioid settlement coordinator. Afternoon,
Good
Katie.
afternoon. So this is a resolution, approximately $8,100 to add Dr. Thomas Meek onto our port team as the Assistant Medical Director specific to port operations. This is in keeping with our current practice of an Assistant Medical Director that has specialized skills in other areas. Dr. Meek is a doctor of osteopathy, and he is an addiction medicine specialist. He's also been instrumental in helping us get our port team up and operational.
All right, thank you, Katie. Any questions on this item? Seeing here none, now this item will remain on the consent agenda. Thank you, Katie. And we're glad to continue to see our opioid project moving forward. All right, this brings us to item number 10, which we added the budget amendment number 7. Mr. Manager, I recognize you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Budget amendment number 7, we've had some capital vehicle challenges over the last couple of weeks. We had an ambulance that lost a motor, a fire marshal's vehicle that also lost a motor. Both were high mileage and scheduled for replacement anyway, and also a motor vehicle accident from an animal services truck. So we're requesting to budget $37,400 in insurance proceeds for the vehicle that was in the crash, and then to transfer the remaining $168,000 from unreserved capital to expedite those vehicle replacements. And you have $80,000 in EMS, $70,000 in Office of the Fire Marshal, and $55,400 in animal services. None of that requires additional appropriation, just to unreserve it from future capital.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager. Any questions on this item? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. All right, this brings us to item number 7, items for decision. We have a number of items. First one comes from the County Manager, ordinance amending chapter number 6 of Animals, Burke County Code. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy to go into as much detail at pre-agenda as you'd like, but I know that the proposed amendments to the ordinance were provided to board members a week or so ago, and I'll point out that our county attorneys now completed their review, and there's some miscellaneous immaterial changes there that we'll get updated before taking action. 153A does require that the proposed ordinance be heard twice by the board, so this procedurally would qualify as the first time, and your December 15th meeting, if the board wishes to take action, you can do so and satisfy that 153A provision. But this is an update to an ordinance that was originally drafted in about 5 years ago. Most of the changes are largely definitional. There are some accountability provisions also written into the updated ordinance, primarily around tethering, running at large, nuisance type challenges, but I think largely it's cleaning up some and clarifying some intent and interpretations definitionally, as well as modernizing the ordinance that our Animal Services Advisory Board has been working on this for some time, largely, as I recall, since I arrived in Burke County in 2023. So they've certainly put tremendous time and energy and effort. Ms. Debbie Hawkins is here with us today, and I'm sure can speak to it if the board has questions. But staff's reviewed it, the county attorney's office has reviewed it, And I think that we can be prepared to present in more detail and make a recommendation for approval at your December 15th meeting.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. Gentlemen, you've had this before you. The changes are highlighted in the document. Any questions on this item today? All right, Debbie, we appreciate the work the Animal Task Force has done on this. Hearing no questions, we will leave this on items for decision and act on it at our regular meeting. Item number 2 comes from the clerk, appointment to the Board of Adjustment. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Mr. Ray Johnson currently occupies seat number 3, which represents the West and is a voting member on the Board of Adjustment. He is resigning due to an out-of-state relocation. His term ends September 30th, 2026. So this requested action is to remove his name and thank him for his service and to make an appointment to fill that vacancy. And you have a couple applications on file.
Right. Any question on this item? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on the decision agenda. Item number 3, also from the clerk, appointment or reappointment to the Board of Equalization and Review. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Betty Greer occupies seat number 1 on the Board of ENR, and her term ends December 31st. She has served on this board since 2015. You do have 3 additional applications on file for this seat, which has a 3-year term. So you have some options. Option 1 is to reappoint Betty Greer for a 3-year term ending December 31, 2028, or to remove her, thank her for her service, and appoint one of 3 applicants that you have on file.
Any question on this item? Madam Clerk, would you mind to check with the chair of that committee just on behalf of the board to see, check on Ms. Greer's attendance and that kind of thing? Just, I don't know any thing about that. If you could, just so we would kind of know what her status is in terms of her participation on the board, and then maybe
Be glad
that'll
to.
give us, if you would just send that to each of us so that we can kind of know where we stand with that. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to know, when you say we have applicants on file, is that a process that's happened over time where someone that's may have been their second choice didn't get their first and moved up? Or is it specifically applications for this position?
It's any applicant in the last year and a half that selected the Board of ENR as any choice. You have 3 choices, 3 boxes. So if they're anywhere on those 3, they were included.
Okay, that's what I was curious. Thank you.
Okay, would it be also advantageous just to touch base with these other guys to be sure that they are still interested in
All 3 have applied recently.
recently? Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Hearing none, this item will remain on the decision agenda. Item number 4, also from the clerk, appointments to the Public Health Advisory Board. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The terms of appointment for the following members of the Public Health Advisory Board end December 31st. Seat number 4, Dr. Frank Anthony is filling the physician seat. Seat number 8, Dr. Joel Welsh, who fills the engineer seat. And seat 11 is an at-large seat, which is occupied by Gwen Stevens. Ms. Stevens also represents the Public Health Advisory Board on the Animal Advisory Board. So it's a request to reappoint Dr. Frank and Dr. Welsh for 3-year terms ending December 31st, 2028. And we do have another applicant on file, Wesley Hendricks, for seat number 11, which is occupied by Gwen Stevens for a 3-year term ending December 31, 2028.
All right. Any question on this item? And again, do you mind, Madam Clerk, just checking with the chair of that board on Ms. Stevens' participation and attendance and give us some information? Okay. All right, without objection, this item will remain on decision. Item number 5 comes from Tax Department, Tax Collection Report for period ending November 30th, 2025. And Mr. Bridgers is here today. This report looks all blank. It's December the 1st. John,
Thank you,
maybe
Mr. Chairman,
really
members
on
of the
top
board.
of it today.
We are currently revamping exactly what it is figures we're going to provide you. It's awful difficult when the first of the month falls on the meeting day to get that information to you. So we will have that information for both reports at the next regular meeting for you.
Maybe you just need to work harder, John. You know.
Well, I do have a taxing job.
All right, thank you very much. With that information, we'll leave items 5 and 6 on the decision agenda. All right, this brings us to number 8, reports and comments. Gentlemen, I'll remind you, if you have reports that need to be entered into the presentation for our regular meeting, please get those to the clerk so that she can take care of that. Courtesy reminder, tomorrow is our Morganton Christmas Parade. Lineup's at 5:30. We're at spot number 10, so be prepared and ready to go there. Hope you can all join us. We got the Courthouse Improvement Project. That's an invitation-only event on the 4th, Thursday, I believe. Okay. Is that date incorrect, or am I reading that wrong?
Yeah, the 4th is Thursday, but I'm thinking it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday.
Okay, so be sure to note that, gentlemen, it is Wednesday the 3rd. Then we got some internal information there, just for your information. Department head Christmas breakfast on the 11th. Our regular meeting on the 15th. Our county offices will be closed 24th, 25th, and 26th of December for the holidays. Also, just as a reminder, the landfill and convenience sites will be closed the 24th and 25th. Again, ask our youth groups to consider helping us with the Pledge of Allegiance at our meetings, our regular meetings. And then we got to spay and neuter your pets and foster or adopt pets at our Animal Services Center. Keep your trash covered and pick it up if it's on the highway. And I remind you once again that we do have a tab on our website that will take you to a place where you can tell us all about trashy places that need attention. So please remember those as well. All right, other discussion items, item 9, we don't have any others for those, and we do have a couple action items we need to act on today. This will be our monthly DSS departmental update for October 2025, and we'll hear from our director, Corey Fisher-Wellman. Afternoon, Corey.
Good afternoon. Let's start with a personnel update. This was at the end of last month. We had 14 open positions, which is a 7% vacancy rate. 2 of those positions had at least a conditional offer. You can see over there for the month of October, we had 2 resignations and 4 hirings, so it's good to be in the positive. CPS social workers continues to be just a challenging position. We've got a few initiatives going with a sign-on bonus and some different things we're trying to do, but that's just continues to be a really difficult position to recruit across the state, not just unique to us. I think that's a shrinking workforce. It's really difficult work, and we're continuing to try to find ways to recruit CPS social workers, but it's a little bit of a moving target. In terms of our operations, we show you this slide every month, but we continue to meet all of our MOU measures in economic services, which, again, I think never take for granted. It doesn't happen in every county. I think that's really important to point out every month. And you can see just from these 2 slides, our numbers in food, nutrition, and Medicaid continue to be fairly stable in terms of the number of recipients we have across the county. in both of these programs, there's a significant amount of new policy that's being put into place. It's leads to some additional work for our workforce. So our staff are working hard to keep up with new policy and make sure that they're implementing those while continuing to meet timeliness timeframes and making sure people have their benefits in a timely manner. Here's just a snapshot of our adult services. We continue to have 69 adult wards that we provide direct guardianship service over. Then we have another 17 who we contract those guardianship services out to a third party. We also continue to have a fairly high number of SEN home cases, as well as CAP, which is the Community Alternatives Program. We have the capacity to serve up to 188, and CAP is one of the few things in DSS that is a revenue generator, so we try to keep those slots full, but the state controls the disbursement of referrals, so we're always up and ready to get to the 188, but we're sort of at the mercy of the referral process. You can see over there to the right is a breakdown of the 34 APS reports you received during the course of the month and how those reports were processed. In terms of CPS, this is just our CPS reports over the course of the year. And if you look, we tend to see spikes at the beginning of the year. So after kids go home for Christmas break and then go back to school in January, you typically see a pretty big spike, and you can see there. And then also when kids start school, so in that August, September, you see the numbers go up pretty high. So we're in a little bit of the winter lull, but when kids go back to school in January, those numbers will likely go back up. And this is just a snapshot of our CPS cases. We had a high mark of 306 in February. We worked hard with some contract providers and some different things we did to help work on those cases to bring those numbers down. I mentioned earlier that the difficulty of recruiting CPS workers does play a role in caseload numbers, because you're having people carry cases that are a little higher than they would like. But we've also seen, since we moved into PathNZ, which is our new document management system that's statewide, that there has been an increase in immediate reports, which also makes those reports a little bit more intense and a little harder to work through. So you're going to see the numbers go up a little bit as a result of that as well. And then a snapshot of our kids experiencing foster care. This was at the end of October. So we had 187 kids experiencing foster care as of the end of October. And then during the month of October, we had 6 new entries and 4 exits from foster care. Then I just wanted to give a little update about our Christmas Wishes program. I think as of this morning, I think we have at least 2 donors for every kid experiencing foster care. We had a couple kids enter care over the weekend, so we're working on getting those last couple of children covered, and we're still working to get a couple of our 18 to 21-year-olds covered in a couple of our adult wards. But I think this is just always a really cool thing to see for the community, and a lot of county employees contribute and donate, but a lot of effort goes into making sure that these people have experienced some level of joy during the Christmas season. So I just think it's a cool thing to point out every year. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
All right, thank you, Corey. Any questions for Corey on his report today?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a comment. As you folks know, that I'm on the DSS board and met this morning, and I'm just excited about the attitude of the leadership staff. We're going through a lot of changes, a lot of things coming up that's going to be changed for them with the building, but their attitude is really good. And I think they're portraying that to the staff that work there. And so I'm excited to think, with all the things that we're doing, how positively it's going to impact DSS. And I appreciate you, Corey, and your staff's leadership and staying positive and just digging in and trying to do the right thing. So thank you.
Thank you.
May I add just a piggyback to that, if it's appropriate, that I would add that our leadership team is as strong as it's been. You've been here 5.5, 6 years, Corey, and I've been here, coming up on 3. Certain members of our staff have been here longer, but I think that it's worth noting, as Commissioner Barrier said, that, and it starts with this board and the support that you've all shown the department and the agency, but the competency, the professionalism, all of those things at the director all the way through the manager, program manager level is strong. We're starting to see the ability to recruit from other counties, which hasn't happened at Burke County DSS maybe ever. And as challenging as the industry and market is, when we look at Mark Miller's in the back, our Human Resources Director, who's done some peer comparisons for pay and vacancy rate and recruitment abilities and those type things. We're leading the region and the industry, and we certainly can get a lot better, and we recognize caseloads and the work is traumatizing and hard. But we're in as good a spot as we've been in a long, long time. And that's, so, you know, I certainly, Corey and I both appreciate the support of the county commissioners, and I, just like Commissioner Barry, certainly say thank you to Corey and the whole team.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any other questions from the court? All right, seeing here none, entertain a motion to accept this report.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the report as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. All right, item number 2 is the Board of Commissioners Annual Examination of Bonds. Gentlemen, you've got this information in front of you in relation to bonds for a couple different spots here. If I can get my computer to where I need to be. We see bonds for our finance director, our tax collector, the register of deeds, the sheriff. Any questions about any of these items? We got to keep a closer eye on Margaret than anybody else in the group, so. I see that. Any questions? All right, gentlemen, with no questions, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to examine the county public officials' bonds and approve as presented.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. It's 5-0, Madam Clerk. All right, gentlemen, that brings us to item number 11. And just before we adjourn, I want to thank our Madam Clerk and any others who may have helped to decor our room up today. It's looking nice and festive, getting ready for Christmas, and appreciate those efforts. And anything else before we go? All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Barry. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.